Today is Monday, the beginning of a week. It's going to be a really good week, pretty busy week for me. But it is starting out dreary, and the wind is absolutely howling, and has been howling since midnight. So, regardless, I had a couple of things that I wanted to talk to everybody about today. Regarding your personal finance, I'm sure nobody likes paying bills, but there's a few things about bill paying and normal everyday day-to-day type of finance that frankly I've never understood. So I'm going to run you past the ideas that I have about, if I can find the proper setting on my windshield wipers, the ideas that I have about how you should go about paying your bills, and setting up just your personal day-to-day type finance. And then I want to hear about what you do and what your secrets and tips and tricks are, because there's some problems that I've run into lately that I'm not exactly sure what to do about. So, the basic long and short of it is the biggest thing that I found is to always pay yourself first. If you can split your paycheck into two parts and send one off to an account you never see, that's a good thing. You should always maximize your IRA, 401k contributions, obviously. But you need to basically get it so that the money that you're seeing to pay your bills and to do fun things with, and the short-term savings, like saving up for Christmas or saving up for a new car, those kinds of, that money, you should never see your long-term savings in when you're doing those kinds of finances. So when you sit down to pay the bills and say, all right, do I have enough money in the account to pay the electric bill now, or do I have to wait until my next paycheck? When you look at that, you should never see the $5,000, $15,000, the $50,000 that you have saved up for the down payment on a house. Or anything like that. Whatever your long-term savings are, you should never take that into consideration. That's the biggest thing. So always have some money funneling into those accounts before you look at your expense money. But the next thing is, where does your expense money actually go? We had ours going into a savings account that was not brick and mortar because the account balance was higher. Now, I've tried having it go into the brick and mortar where we pay our bills from, and then funneling into savings, and that works pretty well, except then it's harder for me to not say, well, instead of $250, I'm just going to throw $150 in this month because I need money. As opposed to the other way around, where you're constantly drawing from it, and you may then be tempted to say, well, let me just I need to pull $1,600 instead of $1,500. I've tried it both ways, and they both kind of stink. Frankly, I think that the pay yourself first is way more effective than to say, let me funnel a little bit out. So right now what we're doing is we pull it into one not offshore, but one checking account that is not tied to a brick and mortar. And that checking account, the checks all go into that account, and on a certain day each month, money is pulled out into a bunch of other little savings accounts, stuff like we're saving for our car or for Christmas or for vacation. That way we can see very clearly these 6 accounts we're saving up for these various things. That's how much money we have saved for those various things. And then on the first of the month, the money that we need for our monthly expenses is put into a brick and mortar checking account. And that brick and mortar checking account is then what we use to pay rent and utilities and groceries and credit cards and all that jazz. So now there's a bus up here, and I may need to merge around it, but I think we're okay. So excuse the delay. Now, the paying of bills can be a little tricky. Here's the problem that I've run into. Anything that is not monthly, that doesn't fit into that on the first of the month, this much money comes out and goes into my checking account. Anything that's not monthly needs to be jerry-rigged, shoehorned to fit a monthly schedule. For example, I'm paid bi-weekly. I get paid a check every 2 weeks. That doesn't make any sense, because that gives me 2 months a year where I'm getting 3 checks. So how am I supposed to account for that money? Well, there's a couple of things that you can do. Number one, you could say, well, you can pretend that money doesn't exist, and then when it comes in, you just do something good with it. I don't find that to be very efficient or effective. Maybe you could say when that check comes in, it goes straight to savings. That would probably be best. Probably not a bad idea. The problem is my wife and I are both paid biweekly, but we're paid biweekly on opposing schedules. So there's 4 checks a year that are these phantom checks that come out of nowhere. Next thing is things like insurance or tuition. Those checks have to go out. Those payments have to go out on every 6-month basis, which is a huge pain in the neck. Because then what'll happen is I've got to save this money up. I got to watch it. I got to pay attention to it, so that I know that 6 months from now, that bill for $450 is going to come in. So that means I know that every month I have to set aside $75, so that when we get to that 6th month, and the bill is due, I got that $450 in the account. And then it looks like, the problem is right before the bill comes in, it looks like I've got this excess of money. Like I'm really doing very well. But then all of a sudden, boom, I take this huge hit. So the opposing side to that is, well, I could pay every month, but by paying monthly, now what I'm doing is I'm causing this extra $5 to get tacked on. So instead of $450, I'm paying $480 for my car insurance, which is way too much. $5 a month just for that. So there are some situations where I do pay a couple of dollars a month so that I can pay monthly. It's kind of a peace of mind thing. It's a much higher dollar value on the month, so that the average is out to just make my peace of mind a little easier. It makes sense to me. But when something frustrating like that happens, you've got to do something where you keep really close track of it. So I have a spreadsheet that says, right now in my checking account, I have $2,200. That $2,200 is set aside, earmarked for these 16 things. X dollars for rent. Y dollars for utilities. So a couple other tricks that I've learned along the way that are a good thing to do if you can do it is number one, utility-wise. A lot of utilities will give you an averaging kind of a thing. I've never employed that myself. On paper, it looks like a good idea. I've never employed it myself because I average them myself by saying, what did I use last year? Over 12 months, I wrote out 24 or 36 checks, depending on how many utilities you paid. And if they fluctuated from month to month, what did I pay on the average? And then I just make sure that I have at least, or whatever average I paid, I make sure I'm putting aside at least that much money. And then in addition to that, I have twice that much money set aside in case a really big one comes in. But not only that, it averages out really well because you're paying for all your utilities out of a single fund. So if you're paying for water and heating and electricity, all three, the three of them tend to average out anyway. I mean, in our worst month, utility-wise, we spend maybe $225. So the bulk of that in the summer is electricity, whereas the bulk of it in the winter is our oil, or natural gas. So it tends to average out pretty well anyway. During the autumn and the spring months, it's a little less. During the winter and the summer, it's a little more. But it averages pretty well. And if any given month, I've got that $250 sitting in the account ready to be drawn on. So I know that if something crazy does happen, if we hit some kind of uber winter or oppressively hot summer, I'm not too worried about having to find that extra $100 to pay them what they need right away. Another trick, and this does not make a lot of sense by the numbers, but it's something interesting that you can do if you ever want to make absolutely certain you're never late on a payment or anything. Let's say your electricity bill comes in and it's $162.75. Then what you're going to do is you're going to pay $165. A couple dollars extra. Car's yelling at me about something. So I had to calibrate the compass. I know I need to get an oil change. I plan on getting that in the next couple of days. I don't know why it's yelling at me now. That was strange. Anyway, utilities come in, you pay, just round it up to the next $5 or $10 increment. And I would always round up. because it just makes the finances so much easier. If most of the time you're subtracting a value that's multiplicative by 5 or 10. But regardless, you pay the $165. The next bill comes in. It's going to say you used $134.67 of electricity, or $131. You owe $128 and some odd cents. You could pay $130 just to round up, just so that it's a nice round number. Or you can pay the next rounding up to the next $5 increment of what you used, not what you owe. So that means that now you're going to have like a $5, $6, $8 credit on your account. So every month you're going to get an additional credit on your account that increases by less than $5. And the reason that you do this is so that eventually the bill's going to come in. It's going to say you used $98.21 worth of electricity. You owe nothing because you have a credit. Now you'll still pay $100 towards the bill, and then the next month your credit will increase a little bit. But what that does is it ensures that in case something were to ever go wrong, like the bill never comes in and you just forget, you get deathly ill and somebody else has to take care of paying the bills and they just miss it, that no one's going to hound you about missing a payment. You can do the same thing with your car payments by paying as soon as the bill comes in and just having that bill come in, or having that payment go out as soon as possible. Car payment is obviously going to be the exact same every month, but if you pay as soon as it comes in, then you've bought yourself extra time. When that one payment goes out, the next payment doesn't need to go out 4 weeks later. It doesn't need to go out until like 6 or 7 weeks later. Keeps you a little ahead of the curve. Now, the reason I say that doesn't make a lot of sense is because, yes, it's great psychologically. But, however, there's a challenge there in terms of the numbers. It doesn't make a lot of sense to give your utility company a $100 unsecured loan, because what if you just up and you go out to you move, you got to move all of a sudden, then the credit that you have on that utility is either going to be a pain to get back, or you're not going to get it back. So that doesn't make a lot of sense. But you're talking about a very small amount that most likely what's going to happen anyway is you're going to have a last bill to pay, and you're just not going to need to pay that last bill. But the balance here is always going to be between psychology versus the numbers. So you've got to find a balance to where I could make more interest if I did this thing, but I'll have more peace of mind if I do this thing. I'm charged an extra $5 fee to pay my tuition monthly. I'm going to pay that $5 because psychologically it's better for me to have the $300 coming out of the account every month as opposed to $3,600 coming out every January. So it's worth that $60 to me to spread it out that way, which is fine. And then $3,600 times 1, you're going to make $36 on that money anyway. So in terms of interest, if you're earning 1% interest, which you probably aren't, but average it out. So psychologically, that makes a lot of sense. The things like, is it better for me to fiddle around with the money market so that I can earn 2%, or should I just go with the 1% and get in a CD? Okay, I'm not going to be retiring for another 40 years. I should do something very aggressive. Psychologically, I'm fine with that, so I'm going to get more interest there. So these are all tips and tricks. And as always, I'm not giving you any specific advice. I'm not abreast on your situation. These are just general things that I've done. What do you do? How do you keep your finances in line? Obviously, this is a topic I'm interested in because I've talked about it for entirely too long. I'm surprised you're still watching. But if you got any tips, tricks, ideas, things that you do to make it easier for you or better for you, how do you funnel your money? How do you make sure that the money that you got coming in, it goes in the right directions? How do you look at your account and know how much money that you have in your account? Because you could look at your account and say, great, I got $3,000 in my checking account. I can go out and spend a little bit of this. And then you come home the next day after you went out and you bought a couple of things for $500, and you realized, oh shoot, tuition's due tomorrow. I needed that $3,000. Now I've only got $2,500, and I don't have enough to pay tuition. How do you know? How do you pay attention? How do you know what that $3,000 is earmarked for? But regardless, I appreciate your input. I'm really looking forward to hearing what you got to say. Have a nice day.